My goal is to get it so everybody in this class can go home and next weekend do this process on their own. And I believe that's doable. I really believe that's doable. So you'll see along the way that everything we do is just a series of steps. It's a compilation of steps. And if you can master each one of the steps and then we put them together, you got a product. So the way this will go today is the pigs that we're going to be processing are in that center field right there where you can see those two white huts. And I haven't fed them today. There's 3 of them in there. We're only going to do 2 of them. But we'll go out, I'll take the tractor out, and they'll think they're going to get fed. And the only part that you guys won't be doing is the shooting and maybe the sticking. Like on the second pig, if one of you wants to step up and do the stick, then, you know, let me know. Hey, I want to do that. So fine. But after the first pig is killed, bled, gutted, cut in half, clean, and laying on the hay wagon, which is right behind you, that's going to be our workstation. Of course, it'll be up here then. You will be able to see exactly where I put that knife to stick it, right? So I'm going to be referencing this little V here on a, you know, our neck, and the knife goes right there, and then I point it right at the tail and just go straight in and pull it straight out, and you breach that cluster of valves that's right on the top of the heart, and that, you know, major plumbing that's going into the heart. And as soon as you cut into that, out the blood comes. So shooting, we're going to use a gun. If I'm doing this here myself, I just use a 22. But with everybody around, you know, the pigs are going to be kind of looking around thinking they want to eat, but who's this new guy? And so they're going to be moving around. You'll see they're moving quick like this. And with a 22, the bullet is a little bit underpowered, and I have to hit right where I need to hit with a 22 to make it happen. So I'm going to use a 30 carbine, that rifle right there, and it's pretty underpowered as well for, you know, militarily it's underpowered, but it works really good at close range on pigs. So if I'm a little bit off one side or the other, I'm aiming right for the brain, and I'll show you that in a minute. If I'm off a little bit, there's still enough shocking power in this that's going to make the pig go down. Because what we don't want to have happen is the pig to just get wounded and then run away. The reason I would want to use a small, like a 22, does everybody know what a 22 is? Not speaking Greek here. The reason I want to use a 22 is because I want to do as little damage to the animal as possible and still knock it down. If you envision this, these being the ears, straight tails, erect ears, floppy ears, either way. And then you draw an imaginary line like this. The brain really is going to be up here. And it's only about that big. You'll see it.
You'll see it. And that's you shooting perpendicular to the skull?
Well, yeah, I'm going to... That's another reason why I'm not going to use a 22. Okay, so this is going to be my point of impact right there. Just a little bit above the top of that X. But let's say that this is the pig's head right here. Let's say that's his skull. If I hit it on an angle like this, then there's a very good likelihood that that bullet could glance up, and I won't get complete transfer of energy into the skull. If it glances up, if it bounces off, or even starts to bounce off, I'm not going to get the full impact of the gun. So with a 22, that can happen. And that can happen in a split second if he just tips his head back a little bit to look at one of you guys. And then the bullet will bounce right. It won't quite bounce off of him, but it'll go under the skin and travel out the back of the head. What I want that bullet to go in, right into the brain cavity, and stop. I would like it to stop right there. And that stunning, that interrupts his whole nervous system, and he'll just go right down. So that's why we're going to use the 30. If he does tip his head up, it really doesn't matter because there's so much horsepower there, it's going to go through. So this isn't going to kill him. This is just going to shock him. It's going to stun him. He'll go down, and then we'll have somebody jump in, put the gambrel on him. Probably, this is the gambrel right here. And I just put a new rope on it. The other one was getting kind of beat up. We'll put the gambrel on him. He'll be kicking a little bit, so whoever's doing it's going to have to be careful. And then we'll pick him up. We'll pull him outside of the pen, and that's when I'll stick him. And I'll be putting the knife in, about a 6-inch knife, be putting it in right here, push it right to the tail, pull it out, and you'll see the blood gush right out. For demonstration purposes, we'll collect the blood. Nobody here wants it, but maybe when you're doing it, you might want to do some blood sausage or something like that. We just don't do it because that's one thing people have not gotten past around here. It's the whole blood sausage thing. I don't know. I've had it. It's all right, but it's not as good as regular sausage. So I don't. We'll collect it, and we'll show you the method to keep it from coagulating. Because normally we'll put it in the snow, put a bowl in the snow, get it cold, then the blood goes into the cold bowl, and then you stir it with your hand, cool it quickly, and it will thicken, but it won't turn into jello. You know? We'll do it for demonstration on one of them, just so you can see it, get pictures if you want. And then the pig will come here with the, I'll be bringing it over with the loader. It'll be hanging right about here. We'll let it down, and then we'll pick it up with the chain hoist. We'll bring it over to this. This is the scalding tank. It should be 145 degrees by then, and it probably will be. I've got a thermometer that I'll have to check it. If it's too hot, we're going to add water to it. You might think, like, if we're going to scald, the hotter the better, but that's not true. If the water's too hot, what happens is the hairs will set, and then we won't be able to get them out. Because the whole idea of scalding and scraping is getting as much of the hair off as we possibly can as quickly as possible. So if it's too hot, the hair's going to set, we can't get it out. If we go much hotter than that, then we're cooking the skin, and we try to scrape it, we'll be just pulling skin off, and we don't want that. If we go too low, like in the 130 range, you can still get some of it out, but it's not the optimum. 145 is about optimum. And some of my kids think 140 is better, because then they'll leave it in longer. And then we'll take it out real quick, as quickly as we can. We're only going to do a half at a time because the capacity of the tank. And then we'll put it on the table right there. That's the scraping table. It'll be up here. Those guys will probably move it up here in a minute. And then we'll drop it down on it. No, you won't be able to do that. And then we'll go to it. We'll scrape it, right? And this is where everybody can, like, get right in there and start pulling hair off. You got to be really aggressive. We want to scrape the face, the ears, the entire head. And our goal is to get it as clean as we possibly can with the scrapers and knives and just grabbing tufts of hair and pulling it out. And then we'll turn it around and we'll do the other half. And we'll do the same thing. We're going to take you'll see on the hoofs, there's toenails. We're going to pull those off. And you'll see how we do that. We do it with actually a hay hook. That's what these are. So we'll be pulling the toenails off with that. These are antiques. They're called bell scrapers. Got a lot of use on these. And you just and it scrapes the hair off. And when we're done with all the scraping that we can do, then we're going to use the weed burner, that thing right there, and we'll singe off all the hairs that we didn't get to, or that we couldn't get. So if some stuff will not come out, it'll burn off. So this is one of the methods that you can use. Sometimes we have Romanians that come here, we shoot the pig, they make a bed right here of straw, and they'll put the pig on there, and then they'll cover it with straw, and then they'll touch it off. And then they'll just go to it with rakes. And they're raking it, they're raking the embers up on it, you know, and it's burning all the hair off, and it has a certain smell to it. You get used to it. After a while, it kind of smells good, you know. At first, that burnt hair smell doesn't smell too good, but it starts smelling kind of good after a while. They're really into it. And then they'll roll it over, and they'll put more straw on it and burn it. And then they'll go to it with the weed burner, and they'll get it so it's golden brown. And then they wash it, and yeah, they have their own way how they do it, and yeah, to each his own. We don't quite do that, but we do use a weed burner to get the last of it off. This way was taught to us by some Austrians. If you take one of your pigs to a butcher shop, most likely they will be skinning it. So they actually have pneumatic tools now that you get under the skin, and they look like spurs, you know, like a spur that you'd wear on your boot, and they vibrate, and they can get right up to the skin with that. And then you have this carcass that is just exposed fat. And so if you're gonna handle that, you got a job on your hands. Like, how do you handle something like that in a scenario like this? So that's why we don't do that. We don't do the skinning, because it's so susceptible. If you drop it or it touches the ground, it's just gonna suck up everything. Anything that drops, you know, it's gonna get on it. With the hide on, you'll see, we'll pull the wagon up. It'll be right here. We'll plop the half on the wagon right in the position that we're going to work on it tomorrow. And we're going to have a covering down on the hay wagon, but it'll be hide side down, so it's not a big problem. And then we'll cover it and we'll staple it down, so it's just kept a little cleaner. And then during the night tonight, it will set up. You'll see when it's still body temperature, the pig's body temperature, the fat is sort of like blubber. You know, it's pretty floppy. But tomorrow it'll be set up, not as much as I'd like, because it's supposed to be 44 tonight, so we may have to do a little ice action on it. I'd rather have it be like down to 30 tonight, if we could help. That would help. Or if we had a cooler to go in. But you guys probably don't have coolers at home, so the idea is to be able to do this without any specialized equipment. You know, it's just, I mean, tables like this. I mean, some of this equipment, once you collect it up, you've got it. A gun. Everybody should have a gun. If you only have a hunting rifle, so be it. You know, but the problem with that is it's going to blow right through, and the head's just going to go plop, and you're going to get all kinds of blood damage in it. You know, this 30 carbine is right on the edge of that, right on the edge, but it won't go through. So then we're going to saw the carcass in half. You may not have one of these, but a handsaw is pretty easy to come by, or a sawzall will work. This is what they call a well saw. These are a little on the expensive side, but the idea is with a thick blade like this, once you get it started in the right direction, it'll stay right on that backbone. Because with a sawzall, and you have a thin blade, if you just tweak it a couple degrees, it'll start off course, and then you got to bring it back, and it can be a mess. If you're doing it by hand, it's actually a little bit more accurate. But this is the cat's meow. It's a little small for beef, but we do use it for beef. If I came across a bigger one, I would get it.
What would you say the cost is on something like that?
This is like $500.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's significant.
Yeah, you see them used occasionally, and I never quite make it to them on time. But this is, you know, butchering equipment. It's real serviceable, so you can change out all the components on this and everything. It's it's sort of like a washing machine. The major component is the housing. Motor, actuators, switches, all that stuff changes out, and the parts are on the shelf at
And
Butcher Supply.
how many pigs would you say you've done with that? Because $500 seems like a lot, but for the work it can do for you.
Mangalitsa's probably 100. Probably 100.
And
I don't know, what would you say? I don't. You're the numbers
easy,
man.
easy. Because you got it back when we were doing those white pigs, right?
15 years. Yeah.
Yeah,
Got it.
15 years of
15
service
years.
and yeah, easy 100 pigs and a
Easily.
few beef and
Yeah.
I think you've changed out the blade is all, maybe.
Yeah. Safety is real important. I mean, if we could all just think about safety right now, we're going to be using pretty sharp knives. These ones may not be as sharp as they're going to be, but I'm going to clean them up, make them as sharp as I possibly can. And some of the cuts, you're going to be cutting towards yourself. It's just the way it is. We got these just for the class. And the nature of this material is you can cut across it like this, where you're pulling towards you. And the idea is that you're making the cut with this part of the blade, and just the tip is riding on there. But when you're pulling towards you, what happens, especially in new guys, is it breaks loose because they change the angle of the blade, and then it, and you can get it right in here. Set it in your mind now, if you stick yourself, leave it. Don't pull it out, especially with that cut right there, because this right in here it's bad news. So if you stick it in, just leave it. And then maybe we'll look at it and say, okay, you missed, pull it out. But if not, we're gonna get you to the hospital and let the surgeons pull it out. But safety, real important. And if somebody does cut themselves, we got a pretty good first aid kit here. We've not had anybody cut bad enough where we've had to go to the hospital. But I did go to a class where the guy giving the class cut himself really bad and had to go to, so yeah, we should keep it in mind. It's a lot of fun. Once we get cranking, especially tomorrow, I mean, you guys will, the magic gets unleashed, I think, about 3 o'clock this afternoon after we've gotten through that. You know, everybody's, whether you know it or not, you're kind of, okay, I want to do this, but seeing something get shot, you know, it's, yeah, well, some of us, you know, I do it all the time, but it's still, once I've done it, it's like, okay, I'm all right. I knew I was supposed to do that. And it's
Humbling.
okay. Huh?
It's humbling.
Yeah, yeah, because those animals have been here. I've fed them every day, but about 3 o'clock, things start, they lighten up a little bit. Everybody knows what they got to do, and we're all just jobbing it. And tomorrow's a good day. Guys will sleep good tomorrow night for sure. And then Sunday, people start to refocus again on how they're going to apply this to their life. You know, because this is huge. This is a major thing. This is the choke point in the homesteading operation. And we've stayed in homesteading for all these years, and it's been tough. There's been obstacles thrown at us. And because of this little shop right here. Because with a little shop like this, you can turn dollars when times are tough.